The crowd inside the Washington Media Forum expected a routine panel. Karoline Leavitt, rising Republican star and Trump loyalist, was seated beside Ibrahim Traoré, the revolutionary Burkinab leader known for defying Western pressure. Conversation began with pleasantries, but tension simmered beneath every question. Then, halfway through, as Traoré calmly described Western interference in African politics, Karoline interrupted with a smirk and snapped, "Sit, boy. Let the grown-ups talk." Gasps tore through the room. Traoré's face didn't flinch. Cameras caught it all. A flicker of disbelief, then silence so sharp it cut the air. He slowly turned his head toward her, the entire auditorium on edge. "Did you just call a sitting African head of state boy?" he asked, his tone deathly. Low, she laughed awkwardly, trying to spin it. "It's a figure of speech. Don't get emotional." Traoré leaned forward. "In my country, we buried people for less, but we also forgave them. Do you deserve either?" The host froze. "Dorst?" Producers whispered frantically in earpieces. Viewers at home clutched remotes. Unable to look away, Karoline shifted, her smirk faltering. "I didn't mean it like that," she said. "I'm sure you didn't," Traoré replied coldly. "Because meaning requires thinking, and you didn't come here to think. You came to perform." Murmurs spread through the audience like wildfire. This wasn't just an awkward moment. It had become a live humiliation broadcast and irreversible. Karoline, red in the face, shot back, "You don't intimidate me?" Traoré's laugh was slow and brutal. "Good," he said, "because I'm not trying to intimidate you. I'm trying to remind you men who fought in jungles don't take orders from girls who read cue cards." The room exploded. Some clapped, others shouted. The moderator attempted to restore order, but the balance of power had already shifted. Karoline opened a door with arrogance, and Traoré had walked through it without mercy. "You think because you wear a suit and speak in sound bites that makes you powerful?" Traoré continued. "But I've seen real power. It doesn't yell across tables or insult its guests. It listens. It earns respect." Karoline rolled her eyes. "Save the speeches." He didn't blink. "Save your country," he fired back. "Because if your leaders speak like you, I fear for the future of America more than Africa." The room erupted again. The phrase hit like a hammer across the internet. Viewers online lost their minds. Within minutes, hashtags like #SitBoy and #TRAORE clapback soared to trending status. Pundits scrambled to frame it, some furious, others thrilled. For many black viewers, it was a cathartic spectacle. For others, a brutal diplomatic incident, but no one denied its impact. Karoline had crossed a line. And Traoré hadn't just stepped over it, he'd lit it on fire and walked through the smoke with the world watching. Still seated, Karoline refused to apologize. "You know nothing about American values," she said sharply. Traoré stood then, calm but commanding. "I know your values are loudest when silencing others. You wanted me quiet? You got the opposite." He turned to the audience. "Africa is not your playground, and I am not your child." The camera zoomed in on Karoline's expression, no longer smug, but visibly shaken. Her mic trembled in her hand. She suddenly had nothing more to say. The moderator, stunned and sweating, called for an unscheduled break. Then the internet didn't pause. News outlets raced to upload the clip. Within an hour, global headlines read, "Traoré's savage response shocks America." Fox called it a meltdown. CNN called it historic. TikTok flooded with side-by-sides of Traoré's stone-cold stare and Karoline's stammering defense. Traoré hadn't just defended himself, he flipped the power dynamic live. In front of millions. Backstage, Karoline reportedly demanded producers cut the segment. They refused. Too late, one staffer was overheard saying, "It's already out there." She left through the back exit, avoiding cameras. Traoré, meanwhile, remained calm, untouched. He granted a brief statement to press. "I responded to disrespect with truth. That's all." And it was all it took. In a single hour, the man they tried to belittle had become a symbol of pride, dignity, and unflinching composure. Across Africa, the clip was played over loudspeakers in public squares. Young people cheered. Elders nodded in quiet approval. "Spoke for all of us," one teen tweeted. Even African leaders who once kept distance from Traore's politics now shared the video proudly. He didn't demand respect, he commanded it. And as the world tried to process what had just happened, one truth echoed louder than the insult that started it. Never underestimate a man who's had to earn every word he speaks by morning. Papers picked up the story with striking headlines. Colonial language backfires. Traore turns insult into global statement, and Karoline Leavitt silenced on air. Opinion writers dissected every line of the exchange. For once, the story wasn't about Traore's military background or his controversial rise. It was about how he used restraint and intellect to dismantle a demeaning power play. His quote, "Africa is not your playground," was printed. On t-shirts by noon, Karoline's team rushed to release a damage control statement. Miss Leavitt meant no disrespect and regrets her phrasing. But her refusal to personally apologize stirred even more outrage. Critics called it arrogant, performative. Civil rights groups condemned her language as racially coded and steeped in colonial legacy. Meanwhile, grassroots activists in West Africa praised Traore not just for his response, but for enduring yet another public trial with discipline and dignity. At the next White House press briefing, journalists asked whether President Biden would comment on the exchange. The administration remained silent, careful not to inflame the diplomatic fire. But diplomatic embassies quietly reached out to Traore's office, some apologizing informally, others expressing admiration. The moment had gone beyond television, had become a diplomatic earthquake. One senator's comment had ignited a global debate on respect and representation. Traore's schedule moved on. But the shadow of the incident followed him. During a keynote at the Pan-African Youth Summit, he was met with standing ovations. "I didn't come here to shame anyone," he told the crowd, "but sometimes silence allows insult to grow, and we've been silent too long." The hall erupted. No notes, no teleprompters, just fire in his voice and resolve in his face. The world hadn't expected him to speak up that way. Now they couldn't stop replaying it. Karoline avoided public appearances for the rest of the week. Interview requests were denied. Invitations to future panels quietly vanished. Sponsors hesitated. Her once fiery confidence had curdled into avoidance. She tried to shift the narrative by appearing on a right-wing podcast where she doubled down. If he can't take a joke, maybe he shouldn't be on American television. But the hosts themselves seemed uncomfortable. Aware that her comment had set off something far bigger than expected, memes of Traore's stare flooded the internet. One image captioned "Sit Boy" over his stone-faced reaction received over 5 million shares. Black communities across the globe found catharsis in that moment, maybe because of vengeance, but because of visibility. For once, a black man wasn't reduced to anger or caricature. He was controlled, poised, and dominant in intellect. That kind of representation carried weight, it said. "You can't insult us into submission anymore," reporters later discovered. That Traore had warned producers beforehand, "I'm open to debate, not disrespect." His team shared that he almost canceled the appearance due to concerns about tone. In hindsight, it seemed prophetic. He had seen the setup coming and walked into it prepared. "He knew exactly what she might try," said one aide. "He just didn't know she'd go that far." But when she did, he didn't flinch. He exposed not just her, but the system that emboldened her. Historians began citing the exchange in lectures. It's about modern imperialism and media manipulation. One scholar wrote, "It was the perfect storm, a young white conservative trying to assert dominance over a seasoned African revolutionary. But she forgot he's been through real wars." Her words were bullets made of paper. His reply was armor, forged in fire. Traore wasn't elevated by American approval. He was reinforced by the very disrespect that tried to erase him. And as the dust settled, one truth remained undeniable. Karoline Leavitt spoke to diminish, and Ibrahim Traore answered to transcend. What began as an insult became a global reckoning. Confrontation that laid bare how far we still have to go. Traore didn't demand the world's respect. He reminded it that he never needed permission to speak, only the moment. And when that moment came, he didn't sit. He stood and the world couldn't look away.